Greek composer Vangelis did the soundtracks for films such as Chariots of Fire and Blade Runner, and he is also famous for his duo with Jon Anderson and his electronic solo career. Today we're going to be talking about his psychedelic pop band from the late 60s, APHRODITE'S Child, a band that created a concept album that was so ambitious it led to their breaking up in the early 70s. Vangelis Odysseus Papathanassiou was born March 29, 1943, and was raised in Athens, Greece. By the age of 4, he was already composing on the family piano, so at the age of 6 they enrolled him in music lessons. However, I believe to this day, Vangelis believes that it's more important to kind of show off your naivety and just make music for the love of making music, and not to be constricted by a rule book, and so he never really took his schooling seriously. Throughout his childhood, he embraced traditional Greek music, but as he grew into his teenage years, he started leaning more towards jazz and rock and finding more things to experiment with. Then at the age of 15, he was already creating school bands to have fun and experiment with his friends. Some of his friends from school would go on to join him in a band called the Horsemen, which would do covers of other songs as well as some material that Vangelis had written. This band released 9 singles and a Christmas EP and had a bit of success before breaking up in 1966. For the next couple years he would get experience writing and producing for other Greek bands, and he also worked on some film soundtracks, also dabbling in that while he was in the Horsemen as well. Meanwhile, a short-lived band in 1966 called the Minis included all 3 of the other members who would go on to form APHRODITE'S Child. We have singer and bassist Demis Roussos, drummer Loukas Sideras, and guitarist Silver Koulouris. The 4-piece first recorded together in 1967 under the name Vangelis and his orchestra, when contributing to 4 songs by Greek musician George Romanos. When the regime of councils took control of Greece in 1967, the band tried to move to London, but because they didn't have proper work permits, they got stuck in France and they decided to make Paris their home instead. Guitarist Silver Koulouris had to stay behind because of military obligations and wouldn't be able to rejoin the band in any form again until their 3rd album. In Paris, they were able to land a record deal and they released their first successful hit, Rain and Tears, which was a reworking of a classical piece from the 1600s, and it became a big hit in France and the surrounding European countries. October of '68 would see the release of the band's first full-length album, End of the World, which was composed by Vangelis and lyricist Boris Bergman. Vangelis plays several different types of keyboards, and Demis Roussos contributes guitars due to the lack of Silver Koulouris. The heavy use of different keyboard tones, influences from classical music, and the unique voice of Demis Roussos clearly set this album apart from other psychedelic rock albums in 1968. I really enjoy this album a lot. It has wacky songs like Mr. Thomas and really passionate and beautiful things like Rain and Tears and End of the World. It also has super progressive and psychedelic sections like The Grass Is No Green. And I dig the lack of guitars and the heavier use of keyboard sounds. Sometimes it seems like it's inspired by Procol Harum a bit, which I have no qualms against as well. Between their first and second albums, they toured parts of Europe and recorded a couple of singles, including a song called I Want to Live, which was an arrangement of a classical French love song from 1784. In January of 1970, they released their second LP, It's 5 O'Clock. This time around, Vangelis worked with lyricist Richard Francis for the majority of the tracks, and the other 2 members each co-wrote a song. The album expands upon the ideas of the first album while trying some new things, including a country sound on one of the tracks. My favorite tracks on this album are It's 5 O'Clock and Let Me Love, Let Me Live. Overall, I think this is the band's weakest album, but if you thoroughly enjoyed the first one, I'm sure you're going to find some stuff here that you'll enjoy as well. When it came time to support this album with a tour, Vangelis instead decided to just stay in the studio and work on a film soundtrack at the time. So the band had another keyboardist replace him on stage for the tour. For the 3rd APHRODITE'S Child album, Vangelis would team up with lyricist Kostas Ferris for an extremely ambitious concept album about the Book of Revelation happening basically in 2 ways at the same time and then eventually colliding together near the end of the album. Silver Koulouris fulfilled his roles for the Greek military and came back to join the band, and he and the other 2 members were not too happy with such an extravagant project that Vangelis was working on. They wanted to stick with a psychedelic pop sound that was more sure to get them an audience, whereas Vangelis felt like going that poppy route was just too boring for him. So of course there were tensions in the studio as they spent over 3 months and over $80,000 creating this album and finishing it in the beginning of 1971. Mercury Records must have been shocked when this album was presented to them. They assumed it would be seen as blasphemous and unmarketable. They especially hated the 39-minute improvised track in which Vangelis plays on drums and pieces of metal, while actress Irene Papas says a chant over and over again and makes weird noises. Even after editing it down to 5 minutes, the company still wouldn't release the album, which makes me happy that I live in an era where I was able to release over 150 crazy 40-minute jam albums and no one was able to stop me. The musicians from Aphrodite's Child would soon find themselves wrapped up in new projects. Demis Roussos would release his first solo album in 1971. Vangelis continued to contribute to film scores and made his first Musique Concrete album. And Loukas Sideras began work on a solo album which Silver Koulouris helped write. The band threw a 1-year celebration listening party as a sort of a protest, in a way of possibly alerting other musicians to the fact that their masterpiece wasn't released. Eventually, in June of 1972, 666 was released by Mercury's prog rock subsidiary, Vertigo Records. Though there are a couple of catchy choruses on this album, for the most part it is just a journey through psychedelic and progressive rock music that lasts a whopping 78-79 minutes. The album did not spawn a successful single, though I'm sure tons of musicians heard it and took inspiration from it. Today, progressive rock fans worldwide applaud this album's ambition, and even major music publications have given it very favorable reviews. Vangelis has gone on to become known worldwide for his electronic music and his film soundtracks such as Chariots of Fire, Alexander, and Blade Runner. He also had a stint in a Greek prog rock band called Socrates, and he released 4 albums with Jon Anderson from Yes. Demis Roussos continued to share his unique and beautiful voice with the world, and released over 40 albums as a solo pop artist, but unfortunately he passed in the year of 2015. If you're looking for where to start with Aphrodite's Child, if you're looking for a single or two, I'd say start with Rain and Tears or anything else off of the first album, really. And if you're looking for the wonderful progressive rock journey, you already know to go to the album 666 and just turn it on from the beginning to the end. I release these videos weekly about different bands throughout time and all around the world, so be sure to subscribe so you don't miss anything. Leave a comment down below about your experience with Aphrodite's Child. When did you first hear about the group? Is this your first time hearing about them? Go listen to a song and come back and leave us a comment telling you what you thought. Have a happy listening session.